Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth with sincerity, and shout out to Yakims out there on the four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Bakatum. So, antitrust is definitely talked about a lot in the scriptures, and especially when dealing with the near times. You know, when Isaiah chapter 19 goes into this, when the trust is totally gone. And, well, we know that Donald Trump fits that fierce king and cruel lord, you know. The U.S. has fallen to its lowest ever rank in Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, a global index that measures perception of corruption in the public sector among independent experts and business people. In 2025, the U.S. fell down one spot to the 29th place out of 182, with a score of 64 to 100 on a 0 to 100 scale, where 0 means highly corrupt and 100 completely clean. This ranking puts the country on the same level of the Bahamas and below Uruguay in the 17th place. The U.S. has been on a slow decline in the index since 2017, where the country scored 75 out of 100. Several factors are blamed for this poor U.S. score, including measures put in last year by Trump that have severely hindered the federal government's ability to fight public corruption, such as pausing investigations into just basically they don't trust anything that the government says, you know. It's like what George Carlin says, rule number 1, I don't believe anything the government tells me. The lowest level recorded since 2000 was in October 2011 under President Obama. Yeah, because of the Benghazi cover-up, you know, where he said that it was a YouTube video, then lied about it when it was in fact a fact that he was going to, you know, the ambassador was killed. But they said it was over a YouTube video. And, well, you already know the rest of it. They was going to exchange the sheik and all that to try to paint himself as a hero in the, his re-election campaign. But it all fell apart, you know, because when he was told to go in, that's what they did, is they went in. And next thing you know, it blew up. It blew up in their face. So, like everything else, though, trust in the government hit a low 50%, which coincided with the announcement of the official withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq by the end of the year and the expansion of Occupy Wall Street movement. You know, and very much so that nobody really trusted. And it's been on a downcline ever since, you know, because we've been out there, we've been teaching, and they're finding out that, yeah, the government has lied to them. I mean, will these people ever admit that, their leaders have failed them? No, they still believe that in 4 years they could change it. 4 more years and then they could change everything. They all got manure for brains. And sadly 2/3 of our people do as well. But nonetheless, though, like everything else, though, they're about to strike not Gaza, but they're about to strike Iran. Gaza's already been hit, and nobody's stopping them, right? But nonetheless, though, Epstein files, well, nothing to see here except we got to complain about Bad Bunny and do an alternative show with Kid Rock. And so, discussing both shows and all that, that's all that they're talking about. That, well, they're calling him Hillbilly Vanilli, because he did lip sync on one of his songs. And that's all they're talking about in the news. It's bread and circuses, it's a dog and pony show to keep away from what's really going on, the corruption.
So these Epstein files don't just confirm what we already knew to be true, which is that this country is run by a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic pedophiles, but they also reveal that Jeffrey Epstein was a global power player, the likes of which most people had never before realized or could even fathom, myself included. Have you been reading through these files? Epstein's emails are full of conversations and communications with everyone from Steve Bannon to, as E. Michael Jones just mentioned, Ehud Barak, Howard Lutnick, Trump's handler, the guy that's attached to Donald Trump like a tick to a dog. And of course, Bill Gates, a man who we're now learning was so close to Jeffrey Epstein that when he contracted an STD from one of Epstein's trafficking victims, he contacted Jeffrey in search of antibiotics that could be discreetly given to his wife, Melinda, to clear up whatever disease he was infecting her with. These people are rats. They are rabid, disgusting, degenerate, satanic demons.
And everybody knows it.
Bill
There's
Gates,
where your
much like Donald
antitrust
Trump, is a pedophile and a pervert. And that's not just according to Stu Peters. That's according to his personal relationship and his personal communications that we all now have access to with Jeffrey Epstein, the most prolific child trafficker in known human history. Maybe that's why Bill Gates has taken such a public shine to Donald Trump since the conclusion of the 2024 election cycle. Because they're both compromised. Because they're compromised together. We've always been told that Bill Gates is some kind of a left-wing billionaire. He's a major donor to the Clintons and Barack Obama and others within the Democratic Party, but as soon as Trump won the election and began his journey back to D.C., Bill Gates was all over him. They were having private dinners. They were having public dinners. All of a sudden, it was as if they had become best pals. They were always this way. Always friends behind the scenes, like most of these people are. Donald Trump, Bill Gates, and Jeffrey Epstein. It sounds like a match made in hell. Because it was. And by the way, it goes way beyond sex trafficking. Because the more that we dig into these Epstein files, the more we learn about Epstein's relationships, including his relationship with Bill Gates, who was in the habit of talking to Jeffrey Epstein about pandemics. And not just the generalized topic or conversation of pandemics, but formulating plans on how to turn disease outbreaks into massive money-making exercises in which everyone, from Bill Gates to Jeffrey Epstein to private equity and big banks like J.P. Morgan would cash in.
Yep, like Woody Harrelson said on
SNL. And by the way, all
SNL.
of this was happening as far back as 2011, nearly a decade before the COVID scamdemic, which Bill Gates was at the very center of. With the help of Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Gates was practicing and planning for the entire world to come down with a deadly disease so that he and his pedophile friends could turn a profit. Epstein was personally seeking out investors, people to pump money into the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation so that that money could be used for vaccine research and the like. He was formulating plans on how to get that money into overseas accounts so that prying eyes from the United States couldn't keep track of it. They wouldn't know what was really going on, if they were even interested in finding out. The story of Jeffrey Epstein goes way beyond the Trump White House. It goes way beyond the halls of Congress. Jeffrey Epstein funded the COVID scamdemic. This is a pervert with ties to Ukrainian biolabs and the overthrow of Libya and the internal operations of the United Nations, which of course Bill Gates also has a close working relationship with. For decades now, Bill Gates has been working with the UN to test his so-called vaccines and other drugs on children and unsuspecting adults in third world countries, especially on the African continent. He is obsessed with injecting Africans with mystery juice, kind of like how Jeffrey Epstein, according to his personal emails, was obsessed with editing the genes of Africans to make them more intelligent. We've always known that Bill Gates was up to no good, but with Jeffrey Epstein in the equation, especially as it relates to pandemics and pharmaceuticals, things are looking worse now than ever before. Bill Gates openly fantasizes about reducing the human population of Earth through clot shots and other means. And he was working with Jeffrey Epstein to make that fantasy a reality. And with the dawn of the COVID scamdemic, it came to fruition. Bill Gates was at the center of COVID. Everyone knows that. I mean, the so-called computer whiz was all over TV being consulted as if he were a medical expert. He wanted to make sure that every man, woman, and child on Earth locked themselves in their home, wore a mask over their face, and when the time came that they would roll up their sleeves and submit to the bioweapon that he and Jeffrey Epstein had been planning for a decade. So now more than ever, we should all be able to plainly see that the COVID scamdemic was a massive blood sacrifice. And now that we know for a fact that someone like Jeffrey Epstein, with the help from Bill Gates, were rubbing elbows with top-ranking scientists and pharmacists and healthcare executives, it should be a major clue that this country's entire mainstream corporate medical system is part of that very same ritual. These people are not interested in your health. They're interested in your blood. And I'm wondering, like, where is the apathy coming from? Where is the complacency or willful ignorance coming from? Jeff Berwick has been in the green room waiting to join the conversation, and that's where I think we should start. Where do you attribute this to? Why are people keeping their blinders on, this willful ignorance? Where does that come from?
I think it's a few things. One definitely is most people didn't know any of this information until
the Super Bowl helps.
maybe even the last few days. So this is a huge, huge wake up to them of what this world, what's actually going on in this world. And of course, that's going to take some time for them to process. Of course, there's a lot of people will psychologically not want to look at this information because it hurts to look at and things like that. But we are seeing a lot of people starting to wake up now. we're going to see more and more of that. This is basically what the apocalypse is, the lifting of the veil. And we're going to see more and more of this. And the question is going to be, what are they going to do next to try to stop this awakening from happening? And of course, World War III, Iran, cyber attacks, Satan Plus has already talked about. New pandemic, which will actually be the 5G, which will be using the graphene and the nanotech they've already got put in a lot of people's bodies. So people need to wake up. There's actually quite a few solutions, though. The biggest solution is to actually, first of all, you need to be aware of what's going on, obviously. If you're not aware, then you can't do anything about it. So people are doing that now. They're starting to figure it out. So then what do? Well, detach yourself from all these people and systems, right? Stop giving them your money. Stop using their currency, the Federal Reserve notes and all these sort of things. That gives them so much power. That's why it's called currency. It's a current. It's energy. And start using things like Monero. And then also you need to, this is critical, take care of your health, because as we know, they've been trying to kill everyone on Earth for a long time. The chemtrails been around for a while. They're just keep ramping up. That's aluminum and barium being put into people's bodies. Of course, if you've taken the lethal injection, the vaccines, then you probably already have nanotech in you. You might even have a nanotech anyway, because it seems to shed things like that. But there is actually a lot of solutions for that. And a big one, actually, it's incredible, because as people's eyes are opening and they're starting to realize all this and they're starting to look for solutions, one of the biggest solutions ever just basically appeared in the last 2 years, and that's plasma, which Nikola Tesla was working on. And Donald Trump's uncle and the CIA basically got rid of it, left him in a hotel room to die penniless, and they really covered it up for about 100 years, but now that's coming back out as well, which I know you know about because you're part of the Tesla Club group, the club.
I talk about it on the show every day. I'm giving testimonials from people inside the club. I'm getting external emails from, people from this audience that have now since joined the club. It's amazing.
Yeah, so you need to take care of your physical first, obviously, because if you don't take care of your physical, then none of the other stuff really matters, at least in this life, right? So that's a big one, and then you can work on your mental, your traumas, and then you can connect more with God, basically, and then you become like superhuman. Yeah, the first step is to take care of your physical. Obviously, if you don't have your physical, you don't have anything in this life, and that's what they're really trying to destroy. Of course, there's the chemtrails, the aluminum, the barium. There's the food. They're putting vaccines in the food now. There's fluoride in the water that turns off your third eye and shuts your brain down, as we know. They are injecting people with nanotech and all kinds of other things. It's actually an actual witch's brew of things. And what we're seeing is a lot of people really becoming, and that's another reason why we're not seeing like a massive pushback yet, because people have actually been under attack so much that they can't actually, their brain's slow, their third eye's turned off with the fluoride. But you can get a lot of that back, especially the energy and the clots that almost everyone has now. There's been numerous studies that have come out that anyone who's ever taken pretty much any vaccine has blood clots. And as we know from Dr. Anna Mihalcha, the Tesla machine, basically, she's shown you have clotted blood, you put the Tesla machine on you for like 10 or 20 minutes, and you look at your blood again, and it's free flowing again. Now, you have to keep doing that over and over because it keeps the nanotech and all that kind of stuff, keeps attacking it. But that is crucial. So, in my opinion, if you want to get through the next few years physically, you really need to try to get access to plasma, which you can with the Tesla machine.
So, like everything else, so you can see on every field that this is why there isn't pushback, but eventually there will be pushback, because like everything else, so we've been exposing Esau for some time, and hey, if this video actually gets taken down off of YouTube, you know where to find me. I'm on the alternatives such as Odysee, BitChute, and Rumble, because again, there's this preliminary to get on there, but you know as well as I do that before they were taking videos down right and left, which is why I wasn't on for a few years. But I was on the alternatives, right? So you know where to find me. And just in case they take it down, Trump's approval rating higher in Israeli state than in the U.S. Well, no wonder. Because everybody knows that it's all about Israeli interests, that there's no interest in settling. They're about to fucking close the government again this Friday, tomorrow. They're going to have another shutdown if they don't agree upon something, but they definitely agree about Israeli state. They get all the money. President Trump substantially higher approval ratings among Israelis rather than Americans. Trump has taken several positions unpopular with the Americas, but favorable to the Israeli state. So like everything else, though, the Zionists, well, they love him. Trump urged to drag Mexico and Canada into Chinese trade war. D.C. should face force from neighboring countries to turn their backs on Beijing, a group of U.S. senators said. 5 senators have urged U.S. President Trump to use free trade agreement talks with Canada and Mexico to crack down on their import of Chinese electric vehicles, which those things are shit anyways. Reuters reported Wednesday, citing a letter to the U.S. Trade Representative's Office. Yeah, Chinese EVs have been effectively blocked from the U.S. market by steep tariffs and regulatory restrictions. But they're saying, well, they should, of course, do the same to Canada, as if he owns Canada and Mexico. Well, that's what his plans are. And like everything else, though, here is some more blackmail what's been going on with Venezuela, the new sworn-in leader after Trump kidnapped the original leader, Maduro. U.S. holds secret indictment of Delcy Rodriguez, top opposition journalist, said. A U.S.-funded opposition journalist revealed that the Trump DOJ has crafted a secret indictment of Venezuela's acting president to hold it over her head and will exercise it if she derails. So they don't go along with it. They have an impending indictment. The Trump administration has used this secret indictment to assert leverage over Venezuela's acting president, Rodriguez, according to the editor-in-chief of the U.S. government-funded outlet, Armando Info. Just hold it over her head. Wow. So here it is. So.
She's sanctioned. She has been sanctioned.
So here they are. Slovakia.
Sanctioned since 2017. She and her brother by the U.S., by the European Union, but she doesn't have, let's say, an open and formal investigation against. One of the information we manage is that U.S. is holding an indictment against her to make it public, just in case she derails.
So they have it over her head.
Yeah. So I think she and her brother, they are on this survival mode, and they will have the capacity to move the pieces as long as the U.S. back her up.
So there it is. Total control. Now we already know that that move was so the Israeli state could import the oil from Venezuela, because with Saudi Arabia, dealing with other partners in trade, and let's face it though, Saudi Arabia limits how much they're going to allow the Israeli state to buy. They needed more. Gaza's genocidal death toll exceeds 200,000 as population drops by over 10%. Leading Humanitarian Law Institute warns the Israeli genocidal war against Gaza has killed more than 200,000 people, as new data shows the Palestinian territory population has fallen by over 10% since October 2023. So that's quite a number, And like everything else, though, well, it's looking like he didn't get his way over here. That's what it's made to look like. I think he is getting his way. It's just that they want a really good attack against Iran. That's why he's been holding back. So, it's going to be looking like, Trump is going this way, because they'll say that in the headlines. But the truth be told, though, that they're going to strike Iran. It's just a matter of time. 4 murders within hours in Arab towns in the Israeli state. 4 people have been killed overnight and at dawn on Thursday in separate shooting incidents in Arab towns in Israeli state with about 8 hours. The killings are the latest in continuing rise in violent crime against the Arab community, amid accusations that Israeli pigs failed to act effectively and have been complicit with organized crime gangs. So like everything else, though, things are going to keep turning up there, because they get very impatient because they really want to make their attack against Iran effective. 5 killed in Gaza attacks while Israeli pounds Khan Yunis Jabalah camp. Israeli aircraft and artillery have targeted Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip of the Jabalah refugee camp in the north, in another breach of the ceasefire. Well, there is no ceasefire. At least 5 Palestinians were killed and 4 injured in Israeli attacks over the past 24 hours. So, it just continuations, right? But, we're supposed to believe that everything went bad. That everything went bad in the meeting, right? No. No, they have plans. You're just not going to know about them. You're not going to know where and when.
This is the Base Report.
It's amazing. It's exhausting and it's tiresome, but it's amazing when you think about all of the lies that our government and its media apparatus have been able to confidently look the collective American people in the eye and just lie about. The causes, the reasons for wars, the events of the wars, the number of casualties in these wars, the aftermath of the wars. Since 1967, they've lied to us about the USS Liberty. We all know that. That was a case of mistaken identity. It was just an Israeli mistake when they torpedoed the boat, came back around, napalmed the deck, came back around, strafed the deck with large caliber machine gun fire from the Israeli warplanes. It was a mistake when they cut to pieces the survivors that were fleeing for their lives in the lifeboats, committing war crimes on international waters. It was just a case of mistaken identity, that's all. 9/11. That was pulled off. 3,000 Americans were killed that morning because of radical Islam. It was extremist Muslim terrorists. They flew United Airlines and American Airlines planes right into those buildings. Just 2 of them, but they took down 3 buildings. And the Pentagon, don't worry about the training of the pilot or how impossible that maneuver is to pull off. It was radical Islam. So we have to go to war with the Sand People before they bring Sharia law to our country. Unrestricted warfare, the Maui fires, the Pacific Palisades, East Palestine, Ohio. They Chernobyl East Palestine, Ohio. JFK. Murdered in broad daylight. It was Lee Harvey Oswald, the lone gunman. That's who it was. COVID-19. What a virus that was. An unexpected pandemic. An unexplainable novel coronavirus. Never mind these patents for these safe and effective vaccines either. They're safe and effective. Get double jabbed and triple boosted. There are still people who are. There are people who will tell you that JFK was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, Esau doesn't really like you watching these videos. And that's why the feed is, all of a sudden, it just stopped. It just stopped. Well, I know what to do about it. Salakia. Salakia, I just went to the next best step since they were fucking with the video feed. I downloaded and saved to the computer. Now playing to the VLC player. I might have to do that with these, as said before. But nonetheless, though, picking up from where we left off before Esau cut the feed. Because they don't like you looking at these videos.
Phenomenon when it stopped over western North Carolina over the largest lithium deposit known to man that BlackRock now has control of. That was just a freak storm, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep, Esau's been discovered.
I cannot believe that Tyler Robinson was able to steal his grandfather's 30-06 that he had never before been seen with. But he was able to go undetected when he scaled that building like Spider-Man. Where was the security on the roof when he pulled off that shot with that 30-06, that perfect neck shot that got caught up in Charlie Kirk's Superman-like neck bones of steel? God, I hope they execute him. Sometimes you just have to slap people in the face with the truth. So that's what I've decided to do today. I'm a walking billboard. I wore the shirt today. The Guess Who Silenced Him shirt. We know who silenced him. The Talmudic tricksters. It was the chosen tribe tricksters, of course. The six-pointed star schemers, the temple gold hoarders, the wall whalers, the kosher cabal controllers, the diaspora despots, the Holocaust hustlers, the media mogul manipulators, the banking bloodsuckers. It was the menorah mischief makers. That's who killed him.
These imposters, Amalek.
SPMstore.com, just go to SPMstore.com. Sometimes you just have to walk around as a billboard of truth. After that talk with John Bray yesterday, and I knew this beforehand, but what a brilliant mind. And the AI technology, the investment that he's making financially, the risk that he's taking, his life, the lives of his family members, to come out and say that, come out and show the proof, the irrefutable video documented evidence that Charlie Kirk was murdered by an exploding Rode black tempered glass lavalier microphone. And it's irrefutable, you can see it. But you still have people that will say, oh, no, come on. Okay, Stu, okay, Peters, exploding microphones. Yeah, what's next? What's next? 9/11 was an inside job? Yeah. What's next? Israel killed JFK? Is that what we're going to say here?
Antitrust.
JFK because he wanted AIPAC to register with FARA and said that they couldn't have nukes. They weren't allowed to have an undisclosed nuclear program. Yeah, okay, sure, yeah. So Israel took out JFK. The USS Liberty. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they torpedoed that vessel and came back around and napalmed it and came back around and machine gunned it and blew up the lifeboats. They did all that on purpose. Israel, our greatest ally. Come on, that's anti-Semitic. COVID-19 was not an act of biowarfare carried out against the global population. That was just a novel coronavirus. A bat and a pangolin had sex, or, took a shit in some soup at a wet market in China, and, the rest is history. The shots were safe and effective. Charlie Kirk was killed by Tyler Robinson because Tyler Robinson was fed up with Charlie Kirk's position on transgenderism. Anyway, sometimes you have to be a walking billboard, and so that's the route that I chose today. Guess who silenced him? We know the truth about that. Guess who silenced him? You can find this shirt at spnstore.com. All right, the top 3 stories in 3 minutes with Frankie Stocks.
Here we go.
Report starts right now.
Hey, thanks, Stu. Well, speaking of Donald Trump, today in D.C., Trump is meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. He's once again flown into Washington. There's no word yet if he brought his dirty laundry with him. Usually the White House actually launders Benjamin Netanyahu's underwear when he comes to town.
Actually, that's his fat pig wife.
Yes, and his fat pig wife who he has in tow. They shut down the entire roadway through D.C. last night. Americans aren't allowed to go home from work so that Benjamin Netanyahu can be brought through like some kind of VIP. It's amazing. The Trump administration says that if Americans bring guns in D.C., they'll be taken prisoner, they'll have their gun confiscated, they'll leave D.C. a felon. But some foreign national like Benjamin Netanyahu comes in, they have a massive armed security detail shutting down everything to take him right through the bowels of the city so that they can make sure everybody knows Daddy's here. Daddy's here for his meeting with Trump. Obviously, they're talking about Iran. They publicly say this is the reason for the meeting, but we have to imagine there's a lot more of discussions that are being had here, especially as over the past 2 weeks, the U.S. government has been completely and totally exposed as a bunch of pedophiles who were compromised by one of Benjamin Netanyahu's countrymen, by Jeffrey Epstein, by this operative who was running operations on behalf of Israel in direct communications with people like Ehud Barak, and direct communications with Donald Trump and with others like Howard Lutnick at the very highest levels of our government and at Israel's government. So we have to imagine that conversation is on the table there as well. But this is mainly focusing, they say, around Iran. And the U.S. is knocking on the door of war with Iran because they're fueling this greater Israel project. And so Netanyahu has been coming to D.C., coming to the United States time and time again. It's like we're losing count now. Is this his 5th visit, his 6th visit? Most recently, he was at Mar-a-Lago for the new year. So this guy's coming at a rate of almost monthly. He's just coming to run his little check-ins and see what Trump is up to and see how things are moving along as they play out this Zionist agenda. And also on the table is the Israeli annexation of the West Bank. Now there's a bunch of fake headlines out there acting like Trump is going to stand up to Netanyahu and say Israel can't take the West Bank, it's too aggressive.
Yep, and I'll show you those in a minute.
Palestinians. That's BS. That's a total lie. When Trump took the $250 million payout from Miriam Adelson and AIPAC, he did that contingent on Israel taking the West Bank. The United States has already signed off on this, and they're going to continue signing off on it, and Israel's already got the plans in place. They've already approved of them to go in and start expanding their borders into the West Bank. So this is just another stepping stone on the road to creating greater Israel, and this is really the main purpose of the Trump administration. That's what these people are in D.C. to do. They're definitely not there to run mass deportation. So look, Trump campaigns on mass deportations. That's been a slow but sure rug pull. Now I think everybody should realize, hey, guess what? There are no mass deportations. Trump has come out and said we're only going after 11,000 criminals that we want to get out of the country. Everybody else apparently gets to stay, and now they're about to set that into stone. So Trump issued an endorsement yesterday on Truth Social for Maria Salazar, congresswoman from Florida. She's an amnesty nut job. I mean, as the name suggests, this is a foreigner. This is a woman who became relevant because she was running news coverage for Telemundo and for CNN Espanol for invaders who come into this country and they can't be bothered to learn English. They can't even consume news in English. When they want to consume propaganda, they consume it in Spanish from people like Maria Salazar. Trump has given her his endorsement, and she's got legislation on the table right now to give amnesty to millions of illegal invaders who, of course, she refers to in her legislation as immigrants. But it gets even worse than that because this bill is called the Dignidad Act. It's to mean dignity, but she even wrote the bill, titled the bill in Spanish. I mean, this is an up-in-your-face conquest ritual here, and Donald Trump, the mass deportation guy, is endorsing the woman who's behind behind it. So they're going to give amnesty to tens of millions of illegal invaders, and they're going to tell you that this is America first and this is MAGA, and that if you support the primary candidate or you support any other
So he's
candidate,
not even living up to them people either.
This
Them
Salazar woman in
racists.
her district in Florida, then you're anti-Trump, you're anti-America first. The entire thing has just gotten ridiculous, and it's comical almost, but we're being destroyed in the process. So it's like not funny at all. But it's like this is
Funny, not funny, right?
that they presented to us here. I mean, the guy that's supposed to run mass deportations, now not only is he not doing mass deportations, but he's endorsing candidates who are going to give amnesty to tens of millions of the invaders that he was supposed to get out. And then if you've got a problem with it, then you're not America first. We're so far off of the deep end here. It's just really unreal. And look, last story here. Speaking of people who are off the deep end, there's been another trans mass shooting. This time it's in Canada. You know, Canada always has so much to say about United States gun laws and American shootings, and then now they've got one of these tranny freak shows running wild in Canada, killing people. He killed at least 9 kids, and then he's dead now too at a school in British Columbia. His name, he's been identified as Jesse Strang, a 17-year-old. This is a male who identified as a female. He began the transition process at 15, so this is someone who very early on was being pumped full of drugs. There's also reports out there that he was on heavy doses of SSRIs, so this is the perfect kind of person to commit one of these shootings. Every time we see this, you know, whether they're a tranny, whether they're some other kind of nut job, it's someone that's pumped full of medication, someone that's easily suggestible. They'll probably find out that this guy was terminally online, and he set out to kill a bunch of kids in his school, and he accomplished killing 9 of them, and he wounded.
Or you find out the whole thing's a hoax, like Sandy hoax was, right? Oh, but I'm not Alex Jones, so you can't sue me for something that I ain't got. Anyhow, I figured out a way to get it to play. No wonder why they didn't want it to play, but you've heard it, and like everything else, so you know we look at things and we see things for what they are. That indeed we're in an age of distrust. You know, the things that the scriptures tell us about, you know, nations shall rise against nations, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. And we're seeing it. You know, we're seeing uproars of the worldwide. Trump says nothing definitive reached in very good meeting with Netanyahu, so supposedly they disagreed, right? U.S. President said that he insisted to Netanyahu that U.S. talks with Iran would continue. Yeah, that's what they're telling you. But he's making moves at the same time he's telling you that, right? Trump insists Iran talks continue in meeting with Netanyahu. U.S. President told Israeli Prime Minister King Bibi that his preference for negotiations to continue with Iran is see, they're going to tell you all as well. That's not what's happening. Hours-long Netanyahu meeting concludes away from cameras. Trump committed to Iran talks. See, there we go. But here's what really happened. The Pentagon told the 2nd Aircraft Carrier Strike Group to prepare to deploy to West Asia as the U.S. military readies for potential attack against Iran. President Trump said Tuesday that he is weighing sending a 2nd carrier to West Asia to prepare for military actions if negotiations with Iran fails. So, like everything else, though, you know. And yeah, you can see that they literally shut down the highways for King Bibi to come, because that's who Trump's real handler is. But here we go. U.S. preparing to send 2nd aircraft carrier towards Iran. The Department of War has reportedly instructed a 2nd aircraft carrier strike group to prepare for possible deployment to West Asia as D.C. intensifies military pressure against Tehran amid negotiations. 3 U.S. officials told the news outlet on Wednesday that the preparations are a contingency plan for a potential strike against Iran if diplomatic efforts fail. U.S. President Trump hasn't yet issued a formal order. Yeah, like everything else, though. We already know how this goes. So, they may just weigh it out, or they might just actually attack. Either way, though, they're still preparing for war. But says Hayat al-Sham-led Syria's government, a.k.a. ISIS, is in participation in anti-ISIS coalition, marking a new chapter. Well, they got ISIS to fight ISIS. You know, how good is that, right? But the U.S. ambassador to Turkey, who also serves as an envoy to Syria, wrote on X Tuesday that the participation of the ISIS-led government, Hayat al-Sham, the offshoot of al-Qaeda, is in a U.S.-led anti-ISIS coalition meeting marks a new chapter in the region. Isn't that nice? So, good destabilization there, you know. Have an ISIS-led and al-Qaeda government. And like everything else, though, well, you know, shameful spewing, right? We're seeing shameful spewing of the people, especially with these Epstein files. Like, you know, you won't find a more outraged bunch, you know, that, you know, and they're going to find out more and more within this, you know, those that are looking for it, you know, and they're trying to do everything they can to cover it up. But you can see that's not going very well. They need distractions like Kid Rock and Bad Bunny just to get people, you know, to argue about that rather than talk about what's really going on. But we here at Great Millstone and those joined under Great Millstone, we talk about everything. But most of all, we talk about the kingdom to come. Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. You know, because like everything else, though, this is the year of apostasy and of sellouts. But we tell you the truth about what's going on, and we read headlines. You will hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. So we're not saying this is the end yet. We're not saying that, oh, it's definite. You know, World War III is here when they haven't mandated the mark to be made as of yet, but they are slowly but surely transitioning into that. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. You know, so we know that the engineer famines and that, you know, there are shortages everywhere, you know, and hey, they're about to shut down this Friday. All these are the beginning of birth pains. You know, so we're in the beginning of birth pains, you know. And like everything else, though, I did mention Isaiah chapter 19 because, you know, this also goes into what's happening now. When you see this overlord, because that's what a lot of people see him as a king. They had the No Kings protests, you know. Well, you know who this overlord is. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. I will stir up the Egyptians against the Egyptians. Modern day Egyptians are the Edomites, the Edomite Empire, you know, Babylon. And they will fight everyone, each against another, and each against his neighbor. City against city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of the Egyptians within them will be emptied out. And I will confound their counsel. And they will inquire of the idols and the sorcerers and the mediums and the necromancers. A.k.a. they're going to be looking to their, you know, fucked up news to try to figure out what's going on. And I will give over the Egyptians into the hands of a hard master, and a fierce king will rule over them, declares the Lord of hosts. Well, we know what that is. We know who that is. That's DJ Chump. And like everything else, though, this is talking about what's going to happen to the economy. Because this is, you know, all the riches that come in. The waters of the sea will be dried up, and the river will be dry and parched, meaning that everything's going to diminish. It's not going to be worth anything anymore. And its canals will become foul, and the branches of Egypt's Nile will diminish and dry up. Reeds and rushes will rot away. And Apostle Tahar has said this on numerous occasions. You know, that, you know, they were thinking about the ancient Egypt when they were referring to the economy. Because this is the way of the economy. It's not talking about ancient Egypt, but it may sound like it, but it's talking about modern day Egypt, which is Babylon the Great. There will be bare places by the Nile, on the brink of the Nile, and all that is sown by the Nile will be parched, will be driven away, and will be no more. The fishermen will mourn and lament, and who will cast a hook in the Nile, and they will languish who spreads nets on the water. Meaning that you're not going to have anything, nothing's going to prosper. So like everything else, though, you know, those who are the pillars of the land will be crushed, and all who work for pay will be grieved. Yeah, because they ain't gonna receive their checks, you know, because we know what they are going to usher in. And we go over this one all the time. because there's going to be a new payment system in the midst of the tanked economy. And he was allowed to give breath into the image of the beast, which is the New World Order. The old system has to go. The US dollar, the fiat currency, it has to go. So that the image of the beast may speak and cause those who did not worship the image of the beast to be slain. You know, aka did not go along with the New World Order. It causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, free and slave, to be marked in the right hand or in their forehead to receive an implantable device. So that no one who can buy or sell, or unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of his name. So, if you don't have it, you're not going to be able to commerce, because all that economy is going to be destroyed. You know, that's what's coming, just right before World War III. But, like everything else, though, you know, people are outraged as to how corrupt everything is. And they're going to continue to be outraged. It's going to get worse. So, play some of this video before I close this out. See, you got to be smarter than this devil, so, you know. And like everything else, though, you know, Esau's being sought out. And that's part of everything coming to be revealed about him, which we've been doing for some time. Shalom, Brakat Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Wa Abababal. Brakatam, Jehovah Elect. Shalom. And just going to let this play for a little bit.
Truth is that most of you are Epsteins, just minus the money. That's a fact. It's like when I was talking about Diddy last time, when the Diddy case was going on. This is the lifestyle, and this is the behavior that your culture applauds, and it endorses, and it teaches you to aspire to. I mean, most people are not going to go through the Epstein files. And think about this. They're not going through the Epstein files to try to investigate, you know, the possible architecture of private sector influence that he supposedly operated. They're not looking for that. What are they looking for? They're looking for salacious details about girls and about sex and about sadism and whatnot. Sex parties. That's what you're doing. Scouring through, trying to find the most lurid, the most lecherous, the most depraved information that you can, because you have an appetite for that. The truth is, you're not outraged. You're stimulated. Your whole culture is obsessed with this kind of thing. And your rich people, like I say, they're no different from you. They just have money. They just have the money and they have the power to live out what is actually, in reality, your collective fantasy in the West. And when one or two women who are victimized, you know, one or two women who are victimized from the multitude of women who were involved, when victims come forward, because the fantasy actually has consequences on real people, when you actually live it out in real life, the fantasy has victims. So when the victims come forward, then you express shock and you express outrage, which, if truth be told, is driven more by envy than by anything like a genuine conscience. And now you get to be the self-righteous mob, you know, with your torches and pitchforks, storming the palace of the debauched aristocracy, whose lives and whose lifestyles you wish you had, but you don't have. And that's what makes you angry. I mean, be serious. How many music videos, think about this, how many music videos have you seen that are not set in a mansion or by a pool or on an island where you have some male performer who's absolutely submerged in an ocean of scantily clad women who are framed in that video as party favors? Now, you're hypocrites. You're hypocrites. You approve of that fantasy, you promote that fantasy, and you know perfectly well that the rich can and do live out this fantasy in real life. And it's all completely approved of, and it's all completely encouraged and aspired to in popular culture, because your popular culture is continuously in puberty. I said your popular culture is a teenage boy. No, Epstein came from your culture. Clinton came from your culture. Musk, Gates, Summers, whoever else. Yes, everybody knew what Epstein was doing. No question about it. Of course they knew what he was doing. They were doing it too. And they still are. None of these people needed Jeffrey Epstein to provide this kind of thing for them. He was just one of their own, doing what they all do, and living out your collective, Western, degenerate fantasy. That's a fact. I've talked about this before. We all know you're like this. Everyone in the world knows that you're like this. You can act shocked, you can act disgusted as much as you want, but no one believes you. No one believes you who knows anything at all about your culture, who knows anything at all about your history, and who knows anything at all from their direct experience of your character. You were like this in every country. You were like this in every country that you invaded and that you colonized. You were like this on your plantations. Yes, you lived out your fantasy, your Epsteinian fantasy with African women on your plantations. I said the founding fathers of your country are the original Epstein list. So what are you talking about? You lived out your fantasy in Congo. You lived out your fantasy in Kenya, in Namibia, in Algeria, in the Philippines, in Korea, all across Indochina. You lived out that fantasy in Haiti, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Now, you've been Epstein all around the world, and you're Epstein right now. In fact, your whole population, you don't want to hear it, but it's true, your whole population is either an Epstein, a pre-Epstein, or a wannabe Epstein.
A.K.A.
That's the most
Esau.
interesting thing about this whole thing to me, to be honest. This is actually the most interesting thing. The absurd performance of moral outrage. You do it all the time. And you act as if Epstein is unique. And again, it's just like what you do with Hitler. You know, the brand name of absolute evil is Hitler, even though he was absolutely par for the course as a Western leader. Hitler wasn't special, and neither was Epstein. They're par for the course. But you have to make these selective villains, you know, these selective villains who are entirely, actually, in reality, run-of-the-mill. But you have to make these selective villains tokens of evil that you can hate, precisely so that you can deny how run-of-the-mill they are. You have to prove how good you are by how much you revile them. You need to prove that these people are absolute anomalies, that they're abnormalities, that they're distinctly vile and distinctly repulsive, so that you can obscure how common and unremarkable their vileness and their repulsiveness in your society actually is. Even though, like I said, they're living the lifestyle and engaging in behaviors that your mainstream popular culture upholds as living the dream. I mean, this is the official aspirational lifestyle goal of your whole society. But now you want us to believe that someone who is actually living that dream, that collective, Western, perverted, degenerate dream, is some sort of a freak anomaly, and you're
Here we are with another video, this time to rebuke Babylon the Great, America, and the people that live in it. All praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and double honor to the apostles and elders of GMS. Shalom to the hopefully late. All right, and this video is going to be entitled Epstein Files. Right, the average American has, what's the word called? The average American, or Americans have selective moral outrage, which makes you a hypocrite. Americans have selective moral outrage, which makes you hypocrites. Now, I put a clip in the beginning of this from this guy, Shahid Bolden. That's his name, Shahid Bolden. And I don't know if the dude is a so-called white man or whatever. Obviously, he's Islamic of some sort or something like that. I don't know exactly what country he's from or nothing. But he has these great quotes, these great talking points. He's definitely against American society and culture. And he was exactly 100% on point about what he said. He said that you people in America, this Western civilization, you are all Epsteins without the money. And he's absolutely right. And when you're looking at the Epstein files, everywhere you look, you know, the average person that don't give a shit about nothing from day to day, you popping up, talking about the Epstein files. And the reason why you reading it and you looking at it, you know, is because why? You want salacious details. Because you the same damn way. You people engage in sex parties, all kind of nasty shit that you do out there in the world. And really, you pissed off at the Hebrew Israelites because why? We get on everybody about their sin and their iniquity. Everybody. The Lord is reproving you of sin like he said we would do. Like he said he would do with the Holy Spirit. Let's get it real quick. This is John 16, verse 7. It says, nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. And when he is come, he will reprove the world of sin and of righteousness and of judgment. Of sin, because they believe not on me. Of righteousness, because I go to the Father and you see me no more. Of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. Who's the prince of this world? Esau, the so-called white man. And since you've been calling this devil out, all you other miniature devils, you mini devils of all sorts, you come against the truth. You talk all your shit. You know why? Because you're really a bunch of Epsteins without the money. You enjoy it. Every facet of the society is all laced in sin, iniquity, smut, right? Murder, killing, death, theft, lies, thievery. You see, all kinds of sins. And when we go out in the houses and heads and we preach against it, you find little minuscule and small reasons to come against the truth. You know why? Because you're just like the society. All we do is prophesying, telling you the greatest people, and all you people collectively come together, and you have made, in your minds, you have convinced yourself that we're the enemy for preaching against this place. You know, now your average American, what are you into? You, like I said, you into all kind of stuff. Your music, right? Your culture, everything you are engaged in. You so-called black people, you defend these motherfucking Edomites, these devils, and all they have done, everything that they're into, right, is thievery, robbery, treachery, rape, slaughter, murder. And we reprove them, then you say, no, you're not wrong, Edomite. And you use the scriptures wrong to defend them. You so-called women, what do? All you have abortions, you sleep with multiple partners, right? You lie, you scheme, you steal, you cheat. You transfer money out of your man's bank account to your own bank account on the low. You fucking women out there, you try to get with an athlete or some type of person that's successful, right? And then what do? You decide, you manufacture reasons to be unhappy and leave so you can take half of his money. Or a lot of you out there lie and say he sexually harassed you or that he did this and did that. And even though it's not proven, what does this man do if he's rich? He'll settle out of court with you. You take a nice chunk of money. Nothing ever happened to you, right? It's never proven. And then this society doesn't even punish you. If you get caught lying on a man and said he raped you, they don't even punish you. They just let you go free. You see? So all the debaucherous shit that you see in the Epstein files that you can't stop reading, you do a lot of the same shit yourself. As the scriptures say, thou doest the same things. Is that in the scripture? Can I find that? Let me see if I can find that. You people are nothing but hypocrites. And you have selective moral outrage. You decide what things you're going to be angry about. Just bear with me here. I don't know. Yeah. This is Romans 2:1. Therefore thou art inexcusable, O man. Whosoever thou art that judgest, for wherein thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself. For thou that judgest doest the same thing. You be standing, you see us out there on the highways and hedges, you got everything to say about us. You don't even know us. The majority of the brothers that you see preaching and teaching, I'm just speaking from Great Millstone. We have repented for our sins. All our bad deeds, the smoking, the selling, anything that we doing outside of the scriptures, we repented for that. Now, do we still commit sins like small day-to-day things here and there, things we can't control? Sure. But morally, our lives pretty much match what's in the word. And yours don't. And here you are talking shit about us. And all you people are, like I said, everything you listen to, you look up to these people on TV and all they telling you is filth, drama, right? The whole social media, the way that black people, so-called Latinos, Native Americans deal with each other, the way the average person deals with each other is all governed by what you see on TV. All the women, every one of you goddamn women, either you do some of the other shit, you might have had abortions in the past, you sleeping around, you chopping your damn bodies. Now here it is, these women, your bodies look terrible. All that damn plastic and surgery, even if it's not plastic, they're moving this around and taking fat out of your thighs and your hip or whatever to put in your booty and put in your damn lips. Them lips look awful. I was looking at did some research on John Legend the other day. I just kind of curious about his wife, and I want to see like what's the big deal why he married this bitch. But she didn't always look like that. She used to look really pretty. Then she had surgery. Now they have marital problem. Well, I guess so. You gotta wake up and look at this strange science, this science project bitch every day, man. You got 4 kids in this bitch. Now you gotta look at her every day, looking weird as hell. She looked like an alien. She looked terrible. And, and that's your average person. The people that you champion, your causes, and don't get me started on black culture. Black culture is terrible. From the black church to just the We Shall Overcome, NAACP niggas, all of you are terrible. And every person that I know, you may try to act like you're on this moral high ground, like the Epstein files are so terrible. Well, we knew the people were Satanists. We knew that they eat children and drink blood, right? And eat poop and do other nasty things. We knew that shit. But all the rich people do it. Every one of your favorite celebrities, they do it. Why do you think men want to be rich so bad? Men don't want to be rich so bad just so they family can eat, right? No, they want to be rich so they can trade women, swap women, pile up women to themselves, have all kind of orgies, do nasty freaky shit. Your favorite movie stars and celebrities, every goddamn one of them, right? They're either Satanists or what's that shit? Scientologists, weirdos, Buddhists, freaks of all sorts, bad attitudes, no wrong, just bad. And you people are just like them. You're mini Epsteins without the money. You Epstein, look, the average man want to have a threesome with women. The average regular nigga on the street, you want to be just like these rich ass people, man. And you try to do it in your own life. Don't try to act like we don't know who you are. We do know who you are. Because Babylon bred your ass and it made you wicked. That's why you need repentance. But your average Israelite brother, right, that's preaching and teaching the truth, he ain't thinking like that. But even some of the Israelites, you got that image too. That's why you don't want to let America go. You love America because you can do every nasty, sinful thing you want to do. That's why niggas say shit like, y'all make the truth look boring. Y'all make the serving of the Lord look boring. Because you used to nasty shit. That's why the majority of the Israelites are more worried about their marriage and their relationship and being all over the internet running your goddamn mouth because you stuck in this society. You still Babylonians. You haven't been born again. And you decide what things you're going to get upset about. All of you Americans, you decide what you want to get mad about. Here it is. You get mad at men on the street preaching and teaching, but you ain't mad at your daughter, right, who's sleeping around with several different men. You ain't mad at yourself for getting a damn divorce from a man that loved you because you just want to do what you want to do. Right? You pick and choose what you want to be mad about. Even like with Christians. What Christians do is they try to shame you for your bad deeds. Then they tell you ain't no law. The law done away with so they can do whatever they want to do. All the while, every move you make, they charge you with a sin, and sin is transgression of the law. You people are nothing but hypocrites, man. You carry a Bible under your arms, you never really read it. Now you see us with it, here your ass come, acting like you thinking of all these mysteries that we giving you from the scriptures. You people are nothing but hypocrites, man. You many Epsteins without the money. This is Revelation 17, verse 1. There came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. That's America, Babylon Bay. Even when we tell you about this place, you try to speak up for it. It's obvious that the Lord is angry with this place, and he's going to destroy it off the earth, and what do? You try to find fault with the people that's preaching about it. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. What?
Exactly. Shalom. You can catch Wrestling Brothers video on his channel. Yeah. So.